Welcome to Choose Views with Richard Chew. Get ready to dive into a world of insightful conversations and thought-provoking discussions.
As progressives, our job is to have an all-inclusive, full-on assault with all of our players.
A show that will focus on moving our political, social, economic, gender, and cultural conversation forward.
And all of our players means all of our players.
It's Choose Views. And now, here's your host, Richard Chew.
Good Tuesday morning, progressives, and welcome to the December 31st, 2024 edition of Choose Views. Yes, it is, y'all. 773-763-9278. Facebook Live, TuneIn Radio, YouTube, Twitter Stream. That's Twitter Stream and iHeartRadio. Of course, you can email me, as always, at richard@WCPT820.com. Catch all of our shows by, of course, subscribing to our WCPT podcast on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. And that's where you can get the long and short version of Choose Views with my podcast there. Interviews and all that wonderful stuff. Joan Esposito, live, local, and progressive. Driving It Home with Patty Vasquez, The Big Picture with Edwin Eisendrath. Out Chicago, and our other shows and interviews. Yes, we say it every morning because we want you guys to go where? To heartlandsignal.com, because that's where the stuff is. The other good stuff. You know, there's good stuff with me being live and Joan being live and Patty and Edwin and the weekend shows being live. But then there's the good stuff that you can get over at Heartland Signal that you can send to folks. And that's why we send you there. And that's why I say it every day. So welcome to the show, guys. Glad to be with you as always. And one of my favorite things to do is in prepping for this show is to think about, you know, when we first get on the air and how we want to make sure that, you know, I send out a good vibe to you guys. We're going to talk about tough stuff every day. We're going to talk about some things that we need to be tackling and moving forward, whether it be local, whether it be regional, whether it be national and international items as it relates to foreign policy and all the rest. But at the end of the day, you know, I think about this and just sort of make sure that I'm starting off the day by putting a smile on you, on your faces. And I'm also use guys' faces, like I'm from Brooklyn and the south side of Chicago. Use guys. Don't we have some great language in our country? Just the things that we say. You know, you go different parts of the country and you have, that's the beauty of our country. Let me sample with what I was saying. But I just, each morning or each day when I'm preparing for the show, and my goal is to make sure we get out of the gate with a smile and good energy for you guys, no matter what's going on. And, yeah, we know that, we've got a lot of challenges that we deal with, but I want to be able to give you guys that punch, that good punch in the morning to get you up and going. And if you're already up and going, I will tell you that you need to be safe in travels today. Maybe you're taking the day off, and if you are, blessings and kudos to you to enjoy a day off, given that it's New Year's Eve. But if you're out and about, if you are working, if you're doing things or running errands, please be careful today. It's going to be raining all day, and it's supposed to turn to snow this afternoon. We'll see what happens. We know how weather changes here in the Chicagoland area, and really anywhere in the country. If you're out and about, if it's raining where you are, please be safe. So there you go. But it's New Year's Eve, guys. Wherever you are in the country, certainly, you know, certain time zones are closer to the day than we are here in the Central Time Zone. But either way, we will, in 24 hours, the world will be into a new year. And I am excited about the new year. I'm optimistic and forward-looking and forward-thinking about the new year, irrespective of what's happening in our political, social, economic world. We have to remain optimistic and we have to remain forward-thinking and that's, you know, as to progress, the base word of progressive is to move forward, is to move, to go, to be, you know, in the next direction. However many ways we want to try to describe that word. We have to progress. And it starts in our thinking. And it starts and for me, then it moves to, you know, physiologically, what's next? How do I keep moving? And that's where we are, guys. We are in this progressive movement, and it's an ongoing thing. And I want everybody to embrace it, not be afraid of the challenges, be mindful of them. There's a difference there. Be mindful of them, but don't be afraid of where the challenges. You know, I'm committed to a few things. And one of them in this space is to make sure that you guys hear this from me every day, hopefully every day, that we are going to stout up and we're going to not just, remember when I said yesterday about standing in the ready position, being in the ready position? That's where we have to be. And that ready position visually physically looks like you've got one leg back, a little bit back from your front leg, and you got your torso, engaged, and you're leaning forward to then take on the challenges, to take the wind that comes at you, and then to be able to lean into it to push back. And I don't care if we're talking about what's going on here locally, regionally, nationally, internationally. It all plays in each of those venues, and it plays in different parts of your individual lives. And that's what also being a progressive thinking person is all about. It's being ready for the upcoming and leaning into it. And that's where we are right now. It's New Year's Eve. And I think that the more you tell yourself or give yourself permission, as I oftentimes say to folks that know me, give yourself permission to be strong and give yourself permission to not just brace yourself, because that frankly sounds like taking it from a negative perspective, but not just to brace yourself, but to empower yourself with knowing a couple of key things about bracing yourselves. When you brace yourselves, that feeds your own energy, but that also plays off to other people. When someone sees you standing up, and preparing to fight, I can assure you that inspires other people to want to do the same thing. And I also believe that when you see it's kind of a positive domino effect, and dominoes tend to fall down, so I don't mean it from that standpoint, but it's that sort of connective energy. Right now, we have to remember that we have that, and we aren't going to let these circumstances of the election take that away from us. And I know, so for those of you who might, there are those of you who might be listening and saying, yeah, Richard, I get that, all that fuzzy, nice talk. I mean that from a position of strength. I don't mean that from a woo-woo position. I mean that from a position of strength. Trust me, anybody that you followed, politically, socially, sports, business, on and on, at some point has had to tell themselves, I got to stout up for what I'm about to go through. And I got to bring some people with me. I assure you, any of your favorite sports people, business people, actors and actresses, the list goes on, have had to tell themselves that. And that's where we are. So as much as I can talk about all the political things that we will talk about, I want to start off today's show by letting you know that's kind of my New Year's gift to you, and I'll probably wrap up the show talking about this in some way again, that we have the blessing and the opportunity to be strong in this wind. We really do. And the thing that they're not going to do, I don't care if it's any of the crazy people that the 34X is going to appoint or have around him. I don't care who it is. None of them get to take away your spirit and take away your energy to fight. No, they don't get to do that. They get to talk about it. They get to try to pretend like they're going to do it, but they don't get to do it unless you allow them to. Okay, and that's where it's important to stay connected to the people that you care about, whether they're here, whether they're in your immediate, wherever you live, whether it's, if you're out on the West Coast, your East Coast, South, anywhere outside of the country, wherever you are, stay close to the people that are close to you in proximity, but also to the ones that are far away from you. Stay close to them as well. And yeah, this is a little bit of a rah-rah opening to the show, but that's by design. I said to myself yesterday in preparing some thoughts, that this is how I wanted to open today, because I wanted to let you guys know that I got you. And I'm plugged into us getting ahead and going forward. I truly am. I mean that. And this is that day that wraps up one year, and tomorrow we'll be into a new year. And by the way, we'll have best of a produced show by none other than Henry and Devin and me. But guys, this is the energy, this is the power and the energy that we get to take to this fight. And it's going to be incumbent on us to remember and to remind others of that, at the same time, making sure, excuse me, clear the throat, making sure that if you have to take time every now and again, that you recharge and then come back for this fight. And even in a local, in the local environment, the local markets, not markets, but the local communities, you've got to remind yourself that the people that are. I was having a conversation with one of my brothers-in-law on Saturday about the importance of local work, which he does, and we had him on back in late October. We're going to have him on again when we get into the new year, because he does a lot of work with local children. In schools, and making sure that they've got food. That takes energy. That takes courage. That takes the vision. And so, I made sure to give him as good feedback as I could about the work that he's doing. It's stuff like that helps people make it through, and that's where we get to win. If it's local or if it's bigger. If we keep letting the people around us know, and that's why I said stay connected, that we got you, I got you. What do you need? How can I help? It'll take away that stress of the craziness that might be coming to us from a national perspective politically, and from businesses, because a lot of businesses are punking out already. And, we've seen it with the ABC lawsuit, and we've seen it with other big companies, big, powerful companies that have been in the knee. And let me say something about that. And I was having a conversation with a friend of mine a couple of days ago about the whole it being categorized as bending the knee. Some of it's not just bending the knee. Some of it is they want to take advantage of what they can take advantage of. Because let's face it, they're capitalists. So they're going to do that. That's the nature of capitalism. They're going to ebb and flow with who's going to offer them the best opportunity in the moment. So it's not just that Mark Zuckerberg went and bent the knee. He's like, I got to look out for my company, and love him or hate him, he's engaged with Trump because he wants to make sure that he's on the right side of the financial opportunities that can come his way. And there are other business executives that are going to do the same thing. So I won't really say that he necessarily bent the knee. ABC bent the knee. Mika and Joe, they bent the knee. Others have bent the knee. But, Zuckerberg is looking out for his company. And he's looking at it purely from what can I do to get on the right side of things as I go forward and have to deal with this in the next 4 years. Deep down inside of him, I don't know what he's made of and how he thinks. So I'm not going to try to predict what his motivations were from that perspective. All I'm saying is for us, we've got to recognize that whether it's a business or if it's a politician or whomever that's bringing us garbage, you got to be prepared to stand up to that and stand up for the things that you believe in. So as we go to this break, one of the questions I'm going to ask you is, what is it that you're willing to fight for? And that's kind of my question in part of the day. I've got a couple of things we're going to cover today and as part of the show. But what are you willing to fight for? That's a question you've got to ask yourself. The number is 773-763-9278. We will be right back.
It's Choose Views with Richard Chew on WCPT 820, where facts matter.
Hey guys, welcome back to Choose Views, 773-763-9278. Looking forward to hearing from you this morning on this New Year's Eve day, and we're getting ready for the new year. So the question that I asked before we went to the break is, what are you willing to fight for? And I want to know that. What are you going to stand up for? Combo question. And I thought about this over the weekend and said, what do I want to talk about today on today's show? And so I've kind of been pulling together some various information that I think you guys would appreciate and think are as we look back on 2024. So let me just cut to it. 2024 had lots of things happen in it, and in terms of politically, socially, economically, health-wise, a lot of things that went down this year. So I'd kind of like to ask you guys this question. This year, we went through it, and we had an election that, from a progressive standpoint, half the country got what they wanted, and half the country did not, as to put it plain and simple. But we all know that this was a year where our current president, our sitting president, Joe Biden, made a tough decision. Many didn't agree with it. Many did. But at the end of the day, we have a tremendous amount of Biden successes in this year and Biden memories. And I'll roll into that Harris as well. So I'd like to know what your Biden story is, your Biden memory is. And that's a risky question because some of y'all might come to me and say some things that, aren't what we anticipate, but we'll hear them. I want to hear what give me your Biden success story, your Biden story. I won't necessarily say, I will say from the perspective of this, your Biden memory and what he did this year, what he accomplished this year, and what the Biden-Harris administration did that is a strong memory for you for 2024. And in the same, kind of vein, what is your impact story? What was the thing that impacted you in a big way in 2024? And I really do want to hear from you guys in that space, because at the same time, I also want to know what's the number one thing you're going to pray for, hope for, cross your fingers for, whatever, for 2025. So kind of a little bit of a combo platter there. What are the things, what are your, as you go back and think about 2024, what are some of the highlights, the things that ring loud in your brain? And as it relates to Biden Harris, it could be also something that rings loud in your brain in terms of local events that took place, since we know that that's critically important to all of us, local here in Chicago, local in the community that you're in, that we don't even know about. If you're in a community that, somewhere else other than Chicago, that took place in your community, that was an important event, I'd like to hear about it as we wrap up 2024. And what your 2024 impact story was, whether it be Biden, Harris, whether it be something in your local community. And then along with that, just to repeat it, what is the number one thing at this point in your mind you're going to kind of pray, hope for, fingers crossed for, as we go into 2025? I'd like to know where you guys are there, where you guys are in that space. Just because I think it's important for us to talk about it, because we know 2025 is right around the corner. And with that, let's talk about some things that are going to be part of our today's views of Choose Views and our little bit of news items. Let's see the workplace trends to watch in 2025 as the 2024 winds wind down. Several key workplace developments are highlighting the ongoing challenges for leaders and employees. Strikes at Amazon and Starbucks have raised questions about the impact of labor actions in large corporations, while Grindr enhanced employees' benefits for fertility. Surrogacy and adoption costs are prompting discussions on long-term support for working parents. Corporate diversity setbacks are hurting racial equality gains, and the downfall of CEOs at Stellantis and Nike suggest boards want more than just cost-cutting strategies. Finally, the return to office debate is intensifying with stricter mandates, while AI roles in hiring continue to evolve. Despite mixed reactions, are becoming more and more part of the conversation. Hybrid is becoming not just a vehicle, but a business as usual model on the heels of a flurry of companies calling their employees back to the office full time. The latest being AT&T and Sweetgreen. Many people are noting that hybrid work with some remote flexibility isn't going to go away. Sarah Green Carmichael notes that office badge swipe rates have stayed basically the same, quote, over the past 2 years. And she cites research that demands hybrid workers are more productive and 35% less likely to quit. We've talked about that before. If companies implement strict 5-day return to office policies, Carmichael argues that most qualified and in-demand staffers can quickly find better work alternatives ahead and head for the exits. And I think that she's on to something there because of the way in which hybrid working has impacted us and is part of our regular methodologies now. Can robots fix the hiring crisis? This was a big question. Wondering how construction can keep up with global housing demands? The answer could lie with robots powered by artificial intelligence. The global market for construction robots is now expected to grow 17.5% each year until 2030. 1.6 billion people lacking adequate housing and a shortage of skilled workers. Startups from AI-powered bricklayers to robotic roof installers are stepping in to close the gap. That's amazing. So that sounds like the Jetsons if we ever did. Home sales have been on a rise for the fourth month. In spite of stubbornly high mortgage rates, pending home sales rose for the fourth straight month in November, according to the National Association of Realtors. Last month's gains of 2.2% brought the NAR's pending home sales index to its highest level since February of 2023 and represents a 6.9% increase year over year. While sales are in all four regions measured by the NAR, the West, encompassing 13 westernmost states, saw the biggest bump, with contract signings rising 11.8% over the past year. Now, this is one that caught my eye, really caught my eye. Menopause support is on the rise. Check this one out. Until recently, all talk of menopause at work and otherwise was taboo. But with increasing awareness led by public figures and new research, companies are waking up to the reality that 20% of the workforce is experiencing some stage of menopause at any given time. And it has big productivity implications. According to the Mayo Clinic, menopause-related productivity losses cost U.S. companies approximately $1.8 billion annually. As such, employers are beginning to provide flexible work options, health benefits, and even menopause-specific career coaching. Now, that's what businesses can do to impact how our work environment is by leaning into something that's a reality. And that's definitely a reality. And an aging workforce, not just older, but aging, is going to have that as an experience. So it's time we lean into that one. All right, wrapping this up, Citi CEO's prediction for 2025. In the year ahead, the U.S. will firmly cement its role as a leading destination for foreign investment and capital expenditure. Citi CEO Jane Fraser told LinkedIn, as unmatched capital strength and incentives are growing, industries such as semiconductor manufacturing and are enticing companies, she said, with the geopolitical conflicts globally pushing more and more companies to seek the U.S. for safety. While she quotes, much remains to be seen in terms of U.S. policy, most definitely, and regulation under the incoming administration. She says, I expect the compelling U.S. investment opportunities will continue to strengthen. So, optimistic, probably, and I think that she's probably onto something there. But I'm happy to see that there's some optimism coming from some of the reports that we are able to get our hands on, and that's always good to see and good to hear. So there you go, guys. A little bit of Choose Views news this morning. See your calls. Going to get your calls when we come back from this quick break. The number, of course, is 773-763-9278. Choose Views will be right back.
Good morning. You're waking up with Richard Chew.
Good morning. Good morning. Good morning.
We're live and ready to hear from you. Text or call us now at 773-763-9278. Same number. Simple as that. Let's get the conversation going on WCPT 820, Chicago's Progressive Talk.
Hey guys, welcome back to Choose Views, 773-763-9278. The one thing I didn't do, and I apologize, is welcome Henry back. Henry was hanging with family the last few days, so we didn't have him. He wasn't with us at the end of last week, so I'm sorry about that, man. Got to welcome my man Henry back to the booth. He got in late. This is how committed my man is. He got in late last night, got home, squared everything away, and then got here early, crazy early, to keep us on the rail. So welcome back, Henry. I forgot to give you that shout out, man.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much. It's
always
great to be back with you.
Awesome. So Henry, we got a text from someone that's talking about what they're going to do for 2025, and it's a picture of it's a picture that was sent to me, but it's also a banner that they created. It says Trump Project 2025 fatal to all. Very cool. Won't mention the person's name, but I think I know who this is because they're standing in the picture as well. And it says, "I'm not backing down from the fascist bullies. Are you with me? Will you do the same, or will you crawl into your passive hole and hide from the fascist bullies?" That's a bold A statement, but I'm with you on that. Absolutely. Let's see a couple others that we got here. Let's give folks their text time. We got another one from it looks like our good friend Nancy. Says, "Fight for racial equality, including maintaining related amendments associated with racial equality and protecting public school education. Finally, women's rights." Yeah, right on, Nancy. Voting rights, freedom of speech and media, Social Security and Medicare, access to medical care, including vaccines. She's plugged in, y'all. She definitely is. Let's see. We got someone else here. What else do we have? What else would we have? All right, cool, good enough. You know, like I said, what are your Biden moments for 2024? Biden-Harris moments. What are your own, sort of impact moments of 2024? They don't have to necessarily be of the political nature, but things that took place in this current year that we're wrapping up that had huge impact on you. And maybe how you'll leverage some things going into 2025 and what you're going to fight for in 2025. What's the number one thing you're praying for, hoping for, got your fingers and legs crossed for 2025? I'd like to hear from you on that, because that's important as we build this arsenal of energy and this arsenal of information to make sure that we are the ones that are determining where we're headed, not just those who are elected officials, particularly with this new crazy administration coming at us. Later in the show, we're gonna play a clip that we played not too long after the election. It's one that's been meaning for a lot of people, and it'll be one that we'll probably play over the next few years, because it's something that that a lot of people were impacted and touched by, and we want to keep it in our arsenal for you guys, and we'll probably put that in Henry's been able to kind of put that together for us this morning, so we'll have that for you later in the show. But yeah, I want to know about your impact story. I want to know about what has happened and or what you're going to be pulling for and fighting for in 2025. That being said, let's go to Rick in Florida. Hey, good morning, Rick, and welcome to Choose Views. How you doing this morning?
Good morning, Richard. Good morning, everybody in Chicagoland and this home. Anyway, for 2025, I like to start over with people that I have been, I think, misunderstood, and, we argue. Let's drop all that. We've got to work together. We've got to put our minds together, because we are facing some substantial changes to our country. So with that being said, Richard, one of the things that I think that we should do, that I'd be willing to fight for, is not just to march. I'd like to find some groups down here in Florida that I used to march with back during the George Bush days, and we used to hold up signs saying, "Who would Jesus bomb?" and things like that during the war. And I used to get things thrown at me. I used to have people try to spit on you. It was really something back in the day. And
who would Jesus bomb?
The other,
man, that sent chills. Yeah. That sent chills, Rick. I got to tell you, brother, that sent chills, man.
Yeah, well, they were so righteous, and with that Ken Starr and his morally righteous views, and we have a moral obligation to fight there, and we twisted it into that.
Yeah, we did.
And we would hold up these signs, and we twisted it into who would Jesus bomb? Because that's these people talk about all these lofty convictions that they have, which are meaningless. So let me tell you about, one other thing.
Yes.
I think that we should have one day where we buy nothing in this country and watch profits dip for just one day. No gas, no bread, no nothing. And send a ripple to these corporations that we all know are pulling the strings. Let them know, hey, man, we're here and we can organize just like Rosa Parks did back in the day. And the bus companies that Rosa Parks was boycotting and the community was boycotting, their attitude was, how are you going to get to work? How are you going to get around? You need us. Yep. And they said, no, we don't. And they organized carpools back then. Yep. They organized, how were people going to get to work? And they crippled that bus system, and they got their way. If they can do it then, we can do it now. We got to be organized. We got to. It needs to be talked more. It needs to be brought to the forefront. Now, my next thing, you gave us a full plate today. Joe Biden. Let me talk about my Joe Biden incident, or that really just brought him to the forefront, happened this past Sunday. I found myself, I'm an atheist, but I found myself in a Bible study class at a small church down here in St. Petersburg, Florida, and it spun into, which they tend to do here at this church. I go because they have a really good breakfast, and I wind up, I'll sit there and I listen to what they have to say, and I stay silent. Well, this past Sunday, they started talking politics and how, and I'm sure a lot of your, my fellow Chicagoans, our fellow Chicagoans out there have been, us liberals have been called pedophiles by people on the right. It's still going on down here, and they accuse Joe Biden of being a pedophile. And where are you going with this? Which I already knew. And he said, well, there are pictures of him assaulting children. I said, no, there are not. I said, yes, he's goofy, when he hugs kids, but that's far from it. You want to talk about all of this? Well, anyway, I don't want to let me get back to Joe Biden. So then he said, do you remember when Joe Biden's daughter, and correct me where I may be wrong on this, do you remember where her diary was stolen?
Vaguely.
And vaguely, right. It was so much has happened since then. Anyway, her Bible was stolen. They wound up catching the person who had it because she was trying to sell it. And this Bible, the person who was, I don't know what they call themselves, deacons or I don't know what. But anyway, he said, it's in her Bible how her dad was molesting her. I said, no, all that has been debunked. Don't. And I wound up in a Bible study class in St. Petersburg, Florida, having to defend Joe Biden from these. I said, from these crazy.
I'm being a loving guy, a loving grandfather, a loving uncle, a loving father, a loving husband that understands the separation between being loving and caring and physical with it from being a pedophile or being someone that would abuse the privilege of being able to hug a loved one and a friend or a political ally. He understands the difference between that and the next phase. And you found yourself defending attending that of all places, a church or a church service?
Well, it was in a Bible study. It was in one of their rooms.
Yeah, no, I know what you're talking about. I know what you're talking about.
On the other side of the property.
Yeah.
So we're in there, and I said, well, I would think that you guys are okay with all of that. And he goes, well, what do you mean by that? With a pedophile? I said, well, hold on, I'm coming. So I said, to this guy, well, what about Donald Trump then? I'm going to do a whataboutism. He's actually been convicted of, adjudicated of these rape charges. I says, he goes, oh, well, that's different. And then it really just got bad. And it morphed into, and this is why, the reason why I wanted to call you, and we all just have to, let's drop the past and get along, because this is what we're dealing with, at least down here.
Yeah.
So he said, well, Donald Trump, I'm just going to paraphrase him, Donald Trump is going to get all the unwanted people out of here, the illegals, the this, the that. I said, like the Mexicans and the black people and the Muslims, which I'm a little bit on the dark side, and I am Mexican and Spanish. So I'm like, you mean those type of people? Yeah, those type of people. And it says in the Bible, we're going to salt the earth. And if these people do take over and come into our country and take over the entire country, literally, we're going to call on Donald Trump to bomb our own country into non-existence so they won't have it.
Yeah. It's the epitome. Thanks, Rick, for that. It's the epitome of, as I've said many times, putting the razor blade to one's own wrist, and using religion as a justification, or not even religion, but using this sort of dogmatic view of God and Jesus as a justifier for that kind of thought process and behavior. And that is part of the fight that we're going to be up against, but. We're going to be in for the fight, and we're going to do the things that we have to do. The number one thing that I'm taking from all that you said, Rick, is we have to pull together, and we have to make sure that we're connected in the process of going forward. And I commend you for reminding us of that, because we definitely, that's what we have to do. It's kind of our number one superpower, is to say, I'm going to stay connected. I don't have to agree with the person 1,000% on every bullet point, but I'm with them on 80% of where they are. So I'm going to connect with that person so that we're united, we're locked arms, and we're going forward. So, kudos on you for that, Rick. And, I got to bounce to this commercial that's coming up, this break that we got to take. But Happy New Year to you, my man. Stay safe and keep fighting the good fight, because I know you're going to do it. And I appreciate your contribution to the show.
Thank you, Richard. Have a good day. God bless you, everybody in Chicago. Have a great 2025.
We will, man. Talk to you soon, okay?
Bye-bye.
Bye now. Yeah, Rick's spot on. Got to stay in the fight. And I can only imagine just sitting in a Bible study like that and having to deal with that garbage. But he's right. He's right. Those are, as much as we have to recognize that that's part of the fight too. It's going to come in the micro exchanges with people, like he just talked about. So let's take a quick break, guys. 773-763-9278. We come back, we're going to get more of your calls and talk about 2024 and Biden and Harris. We're going to talk about 2025 and what you're willing to fight for. We'll be right back.
It's Choose Views with Richard Chew on WCPT 820, Chicago's Progressive Talk.
Hey, guys, welcome back to Choose Views, 773-763-9278. So, yeah, what Rick from Florida said a moment ago about being connected. I've been saying that. I'm going to continue to say that because that's what we have. And I believe it is one of our superpowers. We have more than just one. But getting, recognizing that the power and strength of staying connected is what we have for us is as individuals. Even and I'll put it in this vein as well. Even when it comes to talking to our leaders about what we need them to do and fight for, the more of us that are connected in that messaging, the stronger that message will be delivered. That's why it's important to do things that are local so that you can galvanize local people, local energy, local ideas, and say, this is what we want to take to our elected officials. This is what we want to take to our business leaders and business owners. Because trust me, when I speak about it like that, I want to talk about something, and then we're going to grab a couple quick calls as we hit the top of the hour. You want to be a company, you want to be a company like Costco. Let me just say it. Sometimes I want to make sure I say things the right way so that I'm not, overly frustrating some of you. But, you guys probably heard about this last week, and there's been a number, and this is why I said earlier about some companies have bent the knee and are being particularly weak, and some, are kind of trying to figure their way. And I've heard some different conversations around how a lot of companies are starting to walk away, shut down, dissolve their DEI protocols. And one of the companies that's leading the way and deciding to not shut down in that space and not bend the knee is Costco. And you guys may have seen this, but if not, I'll give you the highlights. This is just a quick read from their board of directors' response regarding the conversation around DEI. The board of directors unanimously recommends a vote against this proposal. The proposal, which was to basically, get rid of the DEI sort of protocols. And, Costco is showing all the other cowardly corporations how you shut down the segregationist anti-DEI losers in this country. That's part of the headline of this. Costco rejected a proposal by a right-wing investor group to end its DEI efforts. I think that's pretty doggone cool. Because if you look at the people who are customers of Costco, it's a pretty diverse group of folks of all communities. You go, and here's the thing about Costco, Henry, and it's just who we are as a wonderful country that we are. If you go into a Costco in a certain neighborhood, you're going to see largely the community in that neighborhood shopping at that Costco, and others. Costco is kind of a rainbow coalition of American shoppers of different communities. I mean, we've got, two in Chicago metro area. And then, when I say that, I'm talking about in what we would consider the downtown-ish neighborhoods. We have one near north, we have one near south. And there's others in the suburbs all around in the Chicago area. And I know wherever y'all live, you probably have a choice of Costco or Walmart, and some of the other big wholesale type stores. But in Chicago, you go to different, and I've gone to Costco in other markets, other cities, and it's very representative of diversity in the consumers that are there. And I applaud Costco. The CEO has stepped up before when it comes to wages and benefits for the employees and a number of things. Costco ain't perfect. We know. I'm not trying to toot that horn. I'm just saying they stood up. They said, nah, not today. And I think that's to be applauded. Sometimes you do have to applaud when companies and organizations and individuals. Yes, I know the phrases that I've said it myself, so I'll take ownership of this. They don't get a medal for doing the right thing. In this environment, we do have to recognize. I'm not changing how I say that. I'm adjusting the application of it. I think as part of our superpower as we go forward, as one of our superpowers, is when a company or an organization or an individual does the right thing and makes it known, we need to make it known that we got you. They need to know we have their backs as well. So that there's two sides to we can criticize, but we can compliment at the same time. I believe that's a reality. And we have to be willing to speak well when a corporation like a Costco does something like this. Got to let them know. By comparison, we got Kroger's that openly admitted that they still had prices jacked up. So I can talk about Kroger from that standpoint. I'm going to talk about Costco from this perspective. So be on the lookout for companies that are doing the good stuff and standing in the void And that's what I meant last week and week before when I said that's who you spend your money with. You know, I got issues with Walmart and I've got issues with other companies. And you've heard me say this before. I have fewer issues with Costco. So if there's a choice of which of the big box, stores I'm going to go to, Sam's Club, that's what I was. If I'm going to choose between Sam's Club and Costco, 9 out of 10 times, probably 10 out of 10 times, I'm going to go to Costco. That's how we make the decision to reapply our wealth and our dollars, because otherwise we will be. Let me put it rather than otherwise. If we do it that way and take the positive approach, and I'm going to acknowledge when the companies that I do spend my money with do a good job, that strengthens them. I know you think, well, how are you going to strengthen a company? You strengthen them by letting them know they're doing a good job. We got you. We're going to spend our money here. Stay on that path. We're going to still spend our money with you. Don't be like the other. You guys follow what I'm saying? That's what I mean by that. That's why when people have said, I'm leaving Twitter or I'm going to go to one of the other social media outlets, you don't have to, you make the decision to do what you want to do. But when you go to the new outlet, to the new store, to the new place, let them know if they're doing a good job. Let them know that it feeds them continuing to do a good job. It's kind of like being a coach consumer. When a business is doing a good job, when a leader is doing a good job, you let them know that. So that's kind of my observation. All right, let's try to grab a quick call from Big Art before we wrap up. We'll let Big Art have the last couple of minutes before we wrap up this hour. Hey, Big Art, welcome to the show.
Thank you for taking my call, Rich. I wanted to finish out the year talking to you.
Okay.
I tried to do it yesterday, but about a half hour into the show, I just fell back to sleep because I stayed up too late. But that happens. Man, Rick had a lot to say. He had a lot very significant to say. I think two of the worst things that ever happened in this country were, one, when they allowed Citizens United to pass, the Supreme Court doing that,
yep.
And a couple pieces of legislation before that led the way to that, allowing all that money into politics, and money always talks, and it walks. And then when they stopped enforcing political speak in the churches.
Yep.
It's just one thing to say, okay, everybody, pay your bills. I hope you tithe today. And when we pass the hat, if you didn't, try to do better in the future. But I want everybody to get out and vote. They went beyond that and started slanting toward their deep-seated biases and prejudices. And the conspiracy stuff that's out there on social media. You cannot believe everything you hear and and read about, because it's been proven throughout history that the winners and the ones who want to influence you, if you're naive and simple-minded, they'll easily do it. They'll control that narrative and make you think things that
they'll make you think you're crazy.
Yeah, it's not true. You know what you saw on January 6th.
Yep.
As far as 2025, I'm always excited about the new year because my birthday falls shortly after the new year.
Okay.
But I'm also anxious.
Okay.
I don't have some crazy anxiety where I'm, biting my fingernails to a nub or nothing like that. But I'm anxious to see if I'm hoping that Mr. T, he lays off the Adderall and maybe he does a Prozac or a Valium and calms down and actually tries to have a decent legacy as far as being a president is concerned, and do some things for the American people, because he's going to do what he wants to do for him and his buddies and his big contributors. And like you said, you have certain companies looking out, Zuckerberg looking out for their company. Then you have other, ass kissers, just to put it simply. Then we got all our cowards, the Republican yellow-bellied, spineless cowards who are kowtowing to him. And it's worrisome. It's worrisome, but I still think my hope is there's still enough good men. I know we have them on the progressive Democratic side, I hope that there's still enough good men of conscience,
men and women,
on the Republican side, and women. Yes, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
To get it done and protect us from anything extreme.
Yeah,
because it does affect all of us. It really does affect all of us, and when it affects someone that we know and love and care about.
Right. That's the thing. Isn't that so true, Big Art? That it's going to impact somebody that you may not be seeing every day, but you know that they're going to be impacted by some of this garbage.
Oh, most definitely. Most definitely, because we are all in this together. Yep. There are a few people who are very well cushioned. I mean, they have fat bank accounts. They can weather the storm, especially if they have a really light complexion. So they'll be fine. But those who work for a living, who are struggling, it's going to be difficult. It's going to be even more difficult, even though we know how to survive.
Right.
But sometimes you get tired of surviving. You just want to take a deep breath.
You want to thrive.
Or you want to exhale and live.
Yeah. That's one of the
stress.
That's one of the messages that that was missed by a lot of people when Vice President Harris talked about us going forward. Big Art, thank you for being with us today on New Year's Eve, and I'm sending you the blessing of a safe New Year transition. And I'm going to be here in the new year for you to give you all the good energy that I can to keep us all moving forward. So thank you.
I know you will, Rich, and I know you're up to the task. Could you patch me back there, please?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I will put you on hold, and he'll grab you. We're going to go to a quick break, guys. We got to get this break in. The number is 773-763-9278. We'll be right back.
Welcome back to Choose Views with Richard Chu on WCPT 820 AM, where facts matter. Take it away, Richard.
Hey, guys. Welcome back to Choose Views, 773-763-9278. Listen, y'all be safe tonight. Henry and I were talking about, New Year's celebrations and all that. Whatever you're doing, be safe. If you're going to be on the road, get on the road early, get where you got to be and be there. If you're going to an event, get there early. Get parked or whatever. If you're taking public, get there early so you're not dealing with the rush. If you're going to the downtown celebrations here in Chicago, get there early, be safe. You might want to take an umbrella because hopefully, fingers crossed, I kind of sent a prayer out that the rain cedes and you guys don't have to deal with rain tonight if you're going to be out and about. But wherever you are in the country, as we celebrate, please, y'all be safe. Don't do anything stupid. Just be smart. And be a little proactive in terms of what you wear and what you take with you, et cetera, et cetera. That's just coming from your boy, Richard. So what can I tell you? All right. In terms of today, 2 to 5 p.m., Turi Ryder will be sitting in for Joan Esposito, and her guests are Dr. Tariq Abu Hamid of the Areva Institute of Environmental Studies, Illinois State Treasurer Michael Frericks, Chuck Hillebrand, retired digital marketing executive and library scofflaw, who is using a 50-year-old overdue library book to raise money to benefit Reading is Fundamental, a literacy nonprofit. Carol J. Sharp, president and CEO of the Night Ministry. Ryan Martin, owner of the Den Comedy Club and Theater in Wicker Park. On political comedy, and actor-director Whitney White, who is returning to Chicago to direct Yaya's African Hair Braiding at Chicago's Shakespeare Theater, which opens on January 14th. Live, local, and progressive, weekdays 2 to 5 p.m. here on WCPT 820. And, of course, tonight, 5 to 7 p.m., Elliot Serrano will be in for Patty Vasquez, Driving It Home with Patty Vasquez, weekdays, 5 to 7 p.m. Central, here on WCPT. And make your way over to where? The podcast, the two podcasts of Choose Views, full episodes and Choose Views featured interviews. Yes, you can get them all in all the places. Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, YouTube, Amazon. Tune in. That's where the stuff is. And let's give some stuff away, Henry. You can keep the music going. Fry the Coop. We still got some gift cards. A destination for hot chicken and in the Chicagoland area. Chicken waffles, chicken sandwiches, chicken tenders, and now even nuggets. So the first person to call in is going to get those, going to get that gift card. of the chicken that's fried in 100% beef tallow. How about that? Stop by the Fry Coop today. At one of the many locations: Oak Lawn, Chicago, Elmhurst, Darien, Prospect Heights, Tinley Park, and Bolingbrook. And definitely, the second caller will get the WCPT $25 gift card, as we have last ones to give out before the end of the year. And as always, contests running on WCPT 820 are open to listeners 18 or older and residents of the greater Chicagoland, Northwest Indiana area. One entry per person, one winner per household. Void where prohibited by law, and listeners may only win or qualify to win once every 30 days. Complete rules are available on our WCPT website, WCPT.com website, by clicking the contest tab. So go there and call. Second caller that says, I'm calling about the gift cards, you get a gift card. So can't beat that. Oh, pretty good timing, Henry. Listen, y'all. Henry just got it going on. Man, I was on vacation for a few days. It's like we have this phrase, if those of you who play golf know what I'm talking about. It's called a walk-off birdie. First hole, you hit your tee shot, you hit your second shot, assuming that it's a par 4, and you birdie the first hole. We call it a walk-off birdie. Henry's walk-off birdieing this morning. He's back and forth, getting clips finalized, got our music right on time. I mean, you can't beat that. You go on vacation. See, now this leans into what I mean when I say getting recharged. You go away, you spend some time with family and friends and loved ones, you get kind of recharged. So there you go. All right, guys, let's grab a quick call from our man Dave in San Francisco. Dave, good morning and welcome to the show.
Hi, good morning, Richard. Yeah, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Hey, I was spurred to call for another reason, but I'll tie it to the previous caller who was talking about I think he was mistaken when he said that it was Biden's daughter's Bible. I think it was her diary.
Say that. Go ahead. I'm sorry, I cut you off. Sorry, Dave.
Well, I think it was her diary.
Right.
And
he started off by saying diary, and then I didn't want to correct him in the course of telling the story, but he meant diary because he initially did say diary, and then as he was talking about being in this Bible study, it kind of morphed into Bible. But keep going, my man. I'm sorry, Dave.
Yeah. Well, what I was going to talk about was the faith-based economy, and the MAGA crowd. There's a hell of a mix between the gold broker types. If you listen to hate radio, they've all got these gold brokers as advertisers. Mm-hmm. Whether it's Ron Paul or Steve Bannon or all of these hucksters that are all saying that America is about to crash and you better buy some gold. And on the other hand, they've got the Elon Musk crowd, the Peter Thiel crowd, that are big into the cryptocurrencies.
Right.
And I don't know if you've noticed, but in the last couple of days, Donald Trump is trying to use American gold to buy cryptocurrency.
Yep.
And he wants to make I think he wants to call it a Bitcoin reserve for America, and that he wants to pay off the national debt with Bitcoin. Now, you talk about a civil war. He's basically taking his loyal supporters and pitting them against each other to basically bring down America. Mm-hmm. Because, if you think that, first of all, if you have a Bitcoin, you can't buy a cup of coffee with it. It's all based on total fake, value. And the biggest and worst part of Bitcoin is the way it's made is they have to waste huge amounts of electricity in order to justify having a coin.
Right. And
it's not a tangible coin. It's an imaginary coin that's floating in the internet. And if you lose your password, there have been examples of people that have lost their passwords, and they've lost, what they claim to be billions of dollars. And to that end, Elon Musk has, a good part of his value is based in this imaginary money. And so they want to huckster America into getting a Bitcoin reserve for America and use it or develop it by selling our gold to these Bitcoin phonies. And you start talking about a pack of hucksters who would go out there and create a faith-based economy. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if you've kept up. One of the big things about abortion is that it was based upon blackmail. Before 1972, there was a huge amount of blackmail in America. If your daughter had an abortion, if your wife had an abortion, if your sister had an abortion, they could be blackmailed for decades, if not for the rest of their lives, because abortion is murder and, murder is a never-ending statute of limitations. And these phonies are trying to get back to a world where blackmail is a standard. And they're using the faith-based world, the churches, the confessionals, whether you go to a pastor in a Protestant church or whether you go to a Catholic church and use a confessional to say that you've had an abortion or your sister did or anything else, that sets it up for blackmail. And that the confessional for years has been used for blackmail. And that's where, you get into, I don't know if you remember, but in the trial, the Stormy Daniels trial, the National Enquirer editor was asked about how many catch-and-kill stories do you have in your safe, and he said hundreds of thousands.
Yeah, David Pecker. Yeah, when during that trial, and Dave, thanks for the observations there about the use of gold as it relates to crypto. I mean, and it's a long-standing tool. I won't say tradition, but it's a long-standing tool to use blackmail or compromise, if you will, to get people to do or not do certain things. And oftentimes, it comes from some of the darkest parts of our society, and that's what I think a lot of people, maybe they haven't said it yet or not, but I think that you're putting a little bit of light on it. That's what a lot of people are afraid of or concerned about with this incoming administration, is the use of blackmail or compromise on people, on regular everyday citizens, to get them to acquiesce. And that's what I think a lot of businesses are trying to, why they're trying to get in that good side, on that good side, if you will, because they may have there may be things about their companies that they've done or that they've benefited from, maybe not illegally or an illegal act, but something that a lot of regular consumers would say, oh, I thought that, I didn't know that Jeff Bezos' parents left him a certain amount of money, or his mom, helped provide him with a ton of cash to start his business. He didn't totally bootstrap it up. I think it's versions of that come out that people then go, oh, so he or she isn't a total bootstrapper. So it may not just be blackmail or blackmail per se. It'll be the use of information to try to hold control over certain businesses and individuals. I see that being a part of this next administration, frankly. So, Dave, Happy New Year in advance. Thank you for everything in terms of your contributions. Appreciate it. We'll talk to you on the back end. Got to hit this break that we blew through, but it's always good to hear from you, Dave. Stay well, okay?
Happy New Year, Chicago.
All right, be well. All right, guys, let's got a quick break. 773-763-9278. Choose Views. We'll be right back.
You're listening to Choose Views with Richard Chu on WCPT 820, Chicago's Progressive Talk.
Hey, guys, welcome back to Choose Views, 773-763-9278. Still want to hear from you in terms of your Biden-Harris successes or observations or Biden-Harris memory from 2024, or your own personal impact story as it relates to the world in which we live. And then last but not least, what's your number one thing, or maybe one or two, three things that you're praying, hoping, fingers crossed for in 2025? Would still love to hear from you in that space. A couple things I want to mention in terms of part of my observations about my own question. And I'm going to read you a quote and then talk about some things that I think are important to be reminded of. And this quote comes from Robert Reich, and I listen to him. I watch him a lot. I read his material because of he's just a dude that knows stuff. He's a guy that's plugged in. And as an economist, as a thinker, I want to listen to people that have that kind of perspective. So here's a quote that he posted that I think is really resonates well right now. If there's anything, quote, that if this year taught us anything, it's that, quote, workers keep America going, not billionaires. Corporate profits don't trickle down to workers. Poverty is a policy choice, not a personal choice. Healthcare is a human right, and strikes do work. And he closes by saying, I hope we can act on these lessons in the new year. And that was kind of the predicate for me asking you guys the question about your 2024 and your 2025. We know that we that President Carter passed away, and thank God we're going to have a state funeral that is managed by the current the Biden administration, as it were, rather than the incoming. Thank God for that. But as we close out 2024 and 2025, just some things that I want you guys to be reminded of. We did not win the election nationally. We did not win the Senate. We did not keep the Senate, did not flip the House on a national level. We had some major gains in state races and state legislatures and some governor races and other very important local races. We had some big wins there. And the House of Representatives on a national level is close. They got work to do. Be damn Trump endorsing Mike Johnson, who cares about that? I mean, we care, but we don't care. But what really, for me, we have to be reminded of is this, as we wrap up 2024 and we come to the last few weeks of Joe Biden's presidency. I just think it's important to highlight these things. And I asked a question earlier with the intent of coming to these items because I want you guys to be reminded. Here are a few of the accomplishments that were part of the administration, not just in the last year, but certainly ones to talk about. Passed a $1.2 trillion bipartisan infrastructure bill and package. Helped more than 500 million life-saving helped get more than 500 million life-saving COVID-19 vaccinations to Americans as part of the American Rescue Plan. Stopped the 30-year streak of federal inaction on gun violence by signing the Bipartisan Safer Communities Act. Made a $360 billion investment in climate change, the largest in American history, through the the Inflation Reduction Act. Sorry about that, guys. Ended the longest war in American history by pulling troops out of Afghanistan. You can have an opinion about that one way or the other, how it was done, but it needed to be ended, and he had the guts to do it. Provided $10,000 to $20,000 in college debt relief to Americans with loans who make under $125,000 per year. Cut child poverty in half through the American Rescue Plan. Capped prescription drug prices at $2,000 per year for seniors on Medicare through the Inflation Reduction Act. Achieved a historically low unemployment, imposed a 15% minimum corporate tax on some of the largest corporations in the country. Recommitted America to the global fight against climate change by rejoining the Paris Agreement. Strengthened NATO, the NATO alliance in support of Ukraine after Russia's invasion. Authorized the assassination of al-Qaeda terrorist Ayman al-Zawahiri. Gave Medicare the power to negotiate prescription drug prices through the Inflation Reduction Act. Held Vladimir Putin accountable for his invasion by imposing stiff economic sanctions. Boosted the budget in the Internal Revenue Service by nearly $80 billion to reduce tax evasion and increase revenue. created more jobs in 1 year, 6.6 million, than any other president in U.S. history. Reduced health care premiums under the Affordable Care Act by $800 a year as part of the American Rescue Plan. Signed the pact to address service members' exposure to burn pits and other toxins. And signed the CHIPS and Science Act to strengthen American manufacturing and innovation. Those are just a few. And so, although we did not win the election, and although we are going to fight through that, these are some of the things that we need to be reminded of. And maybe the administration could have done a better job, a different job, in constantly letting us know, constantly boring us to tears every week, every Friday. As I said before, I'll acknowledge that. But at the same time, part of the responsibility for us as Americans is to know what the hell's going on. We can't just put it on them to tell us all the time. We have to do the work to know. Confirmation of Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson. People forget about this. Expanding health care for veterans through the PACT Act. Sign marriage equality into law. Working to protect reproductive rights. So the list goes on, frankly, and I'm just trying to make sure I do my part as I ask what were some of the things that were highlights of 2024 or in general Biden-Harris successes. There they are. And as I said, the list goes on, but part of the thing that I want you guys to remember as we go forward is that that was done by a Democratic president. That was done by a president who and an administration that came in and said, we got some stuff to fix, y'all. We got to do it. We got to do it now. And he took bold action. Tell me what the controversies were about the Biden administration. You know what the controversy was that the right came at him with, particularly when the Republicans took the House in 2022? It was about his son, Hunter Biden. But nothing wrong with Joe. Old? Yeah, he's old. He's seasoned. I like it. I like my leaders to know what the hell they're doing and not be all pomp and circumstance and puff and BS like Trump is. He is. Tell him to his face with all his boys around him. His WWE boys and all the rest. I'll tell him to his face. You are exactly what John Legend's wife referred to you as. I can't say it on the air. Y'all know what I'm talking about. And by the way, it's in the congressional record what she called him. Because it was during a congressional hearing that it was read. I would tell him to his face. You think I'm joking? I would tell him right to his face. See, most people are afraid to talk to him that way. I'm not. And you all shouldn't be afraid to talk to anybody in your world that comes at you with some garbage about Biden. Biden didn't do this. Look at what he did do, y'all. That's what I'm trying to highlight. Look at what he and Vice President Harris and the administration did. It was all about strengthening and bettering the country that we live in. And when you have to deal with these comparisons or these, the trash talking fools that are going to say things about President Biden, and even some from the left that want to say, well, he should have gotten out of the race earlier. When? Exactly when? Ask them that question. When people have said, well, he should have gotten out of the race earlier. And I've had this conversation with people that I'm close to. I said, when? When was the right point? Thread the needle for me. When should it have happened? Maybe it could have happened too early. See, be willing to let folks know that the fact that the current sitting president made it his commitment to keep things clean, keep things in the middle of the fairway, to use a golf analogy, and provide the country with the most amount of support and forward-thinking policies possible, that's what you really want to be focused on. That's when I talk about Biden-Harris successes over the course of their term, and even more specifically in this last 12 months. Those are the things that come to mind for me. Two of my highlights, and I'm going to share my one at the end of the show, the big one for me. But one of my big highlights for this past year, for the country, certainly for the city of Chicago, was the incredible DNC that we had, the convention that we had here in Chicago. Kudos to Mayor Johnson. Kudos to all the local officials and the business leaders that were able to put that together. That's something for us as a city to pull our shoulders back and be proud of. And it's certainly for me as a progressive liberal Democrat from a national standpoint, Chicago stood up strong. We are the city with big shoulders. But we are representative of our nation of big shoulders. So it's that time we have to do that. So I wanted to read you guys some of the things that I think, we have to remind ourselves of what the Biden-Harris administration got done. And that you should be willing to do the same thing as we go forward. And we're going to talk about this a little bit more. When we come back from this break, I'm going to play a clip that I played after the election, and Henry was able to kind of put this together for us again, because I want you guys to hear this as we wrap up. I want to talk about our strength and how we go forward and what our powers are. Number is 773-763-9278. We will be right back.
Welcome back to Choose Views with Richard Chew on WCPT 820, Chicago's Progressive Talk.
Hey guys, welcome back to Choose Views, 773-763-9278. I just got a text that said, and the infrastructure bill that gave many, many jobs to people and that many of us drove through in different ways of commuting in and around the Metroplex and anywhere in the country. That's another one. Yeah, I missed that one. That was part of the conversation that we should be having. These are things that the Biden-Harris administration did. And I just got to let you guys know that as part of my view and I guess responsibility to you is to keep reminding you of that. And as we go into next year, we want to make sure that we're claiming our power. I talked about this wonderful clip that a woman put together shortly after the election and how she's going to proceed and go forward. It's pretty powerful. We cleaned up the salty language, but the wording in it is powerful. And I want to give you guys this little, New Year's Eve to New Year's gift. So Henry's got that put together for us, and here we go.
Have been asking me how I'm keeping my together, and I'm not thrown off by this election because Donald Trump is the truest representation of American values. There are a lot of people who are still very sad. All I can feel in this moment is absolute power. So much of the United States' power comes from its lies, comes from how it obfuscates, comes from how it hides. But because Donald Trump was not only elected once under dubious conditions, but he was able to win a second time after somebody else got in there. And that means two things. The first thing is that there are people who are absolutely clear about what Donald Trump is and decided to vote for that. So that should send a clear indication to us of what I've been saying, which is that Donald Trump is not a cause. He's a symptom. He is the product of the problem. And so while he is a vile representation of that problem and he's tangible, we can confront it. And that's easier to confront than institutions and systems and norms and beliefs and iconography. He is a product of a belief system and value system that is widely shared by many people in the country. That means defeating him in this election doesn't actually defeat the problem. And we're stuck in a cycle because very soon somebody else just like Donald Trump or worse could come up. The second thing that means is though, is that the people who've been voting based on America's representations of itself, based on America's aspirations and not the actual values, are being forced to reckon with the reality that this isn't the America that they thought it was or that they hoped it was or that they thought it was half and half. And now they're seeing that the forces that either want to maintain the status quo, which is the system that produced Donald Trump, or wants Donald Trump, which is the vile representation that wants to go further, neither of those things are sufficient to defeat the actual problem. That's what has so many people undone. So many people are undone because they believed in America's fluff about democratic ideals and bring me your huddled masses and anyone can make it and we have this system and blah, blah, blah. The fact that Donald Trump was even allowed to run again should be the clearest indication to you that the system is not working as it's supposed to, as designed. Because how could this man be impeached twice and be credibly accused of fomenting a coup, rebellion, treason on his own government and still get elected again? The systems, the checks and balances that you think that you're voting to protect aren't working. The reason Donald Trump is able to be as successful as he's been, and I don't mean successful in like a moral sense, I mean that he's remained out of jail even though he's committed crimes. He's managed to not only get a job he was unqualified for the first time, but after he screwed it up, he got hired again. He was able to flaunt his incompetence, flaunt his lack of reading, hide his educational credentials, and still be elected. What did Van Lathan say? He can't fail enough to be a failure. He can't commit enough crimes to be a criminal. He can't lie enough to be a liar. If this don't sound like these United States to you, I don't know what history books you've been reading. In fact, I'm inclined to believe you haven't read any at all. This nation's entire identity, who it actually is premised on greed, ruthlessness, violence, hostility to difference, and arrogance. That don't sound like Trump. That don't sound like the truest expression of this country. And America can't commit enough violence to be a terrorist. America can't lie enough to be a liar. It ain't got enough corruption to be corrupt. It's the exact same ethos. As vile as he is, as much as he's disgusting and disgusts people, he is an accurate representation of this country. And because people keep trying to put a Band-Aid, for those of y'all who've been going back to my old video, you know we talked about this. Those of y'all who keep trying to put a Band-Aid on a bullet wound now have to contend with the fact that it's not a flesh wound. It's not just surface deep, and it didn't go out of the other side. That thing is lodged in, and we bleed now. And so whatever version they told you you was recovering, they told you we was in remission, they told you that wound would heal on itself. People vote based on that premise. People have voted based on the aspirational version of America, the version of America that America tells people it is. This country has spent an inordinate amount of resources protecting its image. In fact, I would argue protecting America's brand is significantly more important than protecting the American people. It puts the resources into its curriculum to make sure you never learn the truth. We do fluff patriotic stuff, Pledge of Allegiance, America the Great. All that anti-CRT hysteria is about preserving a particular image of America, whether or not it actually matches reality. We do it in our news media, the way our media is captured, the way the government leans on our media to make sure that no media that's actually critical of the United States gets widespread attention. It bans international media that is critical of the United States. It puts more money into the pageantry associated with elections than into making sure that they're actually free and fair. What? And too many people overlook those realities and say, yeah, I know we got some problems, but we just need some better people in there. Instead of realizing that these are systemic and institutional failures that a person cannot change. In fact, that people only are allowed to get access to if they expressed agreement with or are willing to be complicit in that system. These are not changes you can make by swapping out a few people. These are changes you make by stripping this government of its legitimacy and rebuilding a government of people where people are actually involved. And so because there were people, too many people, if you want my honest opinion, who took their ass to the polls to vote based on the aspirations of America, even though they don't do a whole lot in between elections to make sure that version of America actually exists, are undone. Because they've been fed those narratives, that myth, that pageantry, the iconography for so long, they believed it would prevail at the polls. They don't realize that that is a marketing pitch. That is a PR program that does not match reality. So no, it did not prevail at the votes because it is not anchored in reality. What prevailed at the polls is what is anchored in reality. So my hope is that while everybody's feeling distraught and depressed and scared, my hope is that folks will now have to reckon with the reality of what this country is, that it is nowhere near its aspirations. Not only is it nowhere near its aspirations, it's not really interested in achieving them, and figure out what we do from there. They can't vote based on those aspirations anymore because the facade is cracked. And if you still believing in it, baby, we gonna need something more than glasses for you. And while everybody else feels, I don't know, like I said, distraught based on this, I feel powerful. I have derived nothing but power, internal power, from this. Because one of the things it is so hard for people who study history to reckon with is the facade, the distance between the facade and the reality, especially when there are so many well-meaning people who consider themselves intelligent and informed that are still preoccupied with the facade, think they can save it, think it's preservable, think it exists, right? And since the facade is cracked, now more and more people see the reality for what it is. More and more people will have to contend with it. And although it may seem scary, knowing the reality of your opponents and them not being able to hide behind PR and marketing is a strength. You can respond adequately to what you know. Too many people have responded inadequately to the American empire because they didn't know. Now people know. I hope people know. I mean, people got to know because that's what they feeling. It just remains to be seen if whether or not people are going to rise to meet this challenge or whether or not they're still going to try to use the mechanisms that failed them this time and will continue to fail them because they're premised on a facade that does not actually exist. There is power in knowing the truth about your opponent, in that truth being laid bare, and them not being able to hide behind the propaganda that has given them legitimacy for centuries. It may feel daunting once you see the reality of what that is, but knowing it is nonetheless a form of power because you can use it strategically to your advantage. I need y'all to recognize y'all are not fighting on for an okay America that we can improve. Y'all are fighting against a deeply, deeply bigoted, filled with avarice, violent country that does not care about you or anybody else. It cares about domination and profit. It is Donald Trump. I need you to start thinking of America, not every single one of its people, but America as an institution, as an ideal, like Donald Trump. And I want you to think about how you engage with that. Donald Trump is not an aberration. Donald Trump is representative. If there was an effigy I could create, it would look like him. Plastic, fake, obsessed with appearances, obsessed with surface, superficial, hostile to difference. He is the effigy. He is the country. This is what you need to contend with. So I know it's hard. I know it doesn't feel good, but I need you to start deriving power from that reality, from that reckoning, from that awareness, and from the fact that now you have a lot more people who are in on this awareness too.
Tough words. And I could have given you guys flowery words and all the other stuff, but I want to make sure that I'm kind of hitting you with the reality at the same time empowering you. Derive your power. Two things that I've taken from this, and I've listened to this a bunch of times, and I get some strength from it, just so you guys know. And I'm not going to BS you there. I get strength from that every time I hear it. When I hear that, the tough words don't frighten me or depress me. They inspire me. And that's my goal in having you guys hear that in its entirety today as we wrap up 2024. It's to remind you of your power. It's not to cower. It's to remind you of your power. Two things that I draw from this every single time I listen to it. Derive your power. I'm inspired by this awareness and when she talks about that, you should be too. Don't fall for the okie doke and don't be hoodwinked. Stand up to people who want to come at you with some garbage. That's why I said I read the list of the things that the President Biden administration has accomplished. Stand up to them with that information. And then anchor yourself, as she says, in reality. How are you going to anchor yourself in reality in 2025? And I can tell you one of the ways in which you can do that is by speaking your truth. I promise you, the elation that you're going to feel when someone comes at you with garbage and BS after the 21st, after January 20th, the strength that you're going to get from shutting someone down or standing in your truth with people is going to be so empowering like never before. And that's what we as progressives have to embrace to win this fight, is to stand in your truth, anchor yourself in reality. That's where you're going to feel really good. And the Biden administration's successes are part of that. They have to be. And that's where I want to see you guys go with this. We're going to take a quick break. We got a couple quick calls before we wrap up today's show. 773-763-9278. We'll be right back.
It's Choose Views with Richard Chew on WCPT 820, Chicago's Progressive Talk.
Hey guys, and you cool kids, if you want a copy of that clip, just send me an email at richard@WCPT820.com, and I will email it to you. Because I want you to have that as your reminder and something that you can pass on to people that you know. Because I've said this before, and I'll say it again. There's folks out there who need that kind of, sort of mental awareness. And that's okay that we share it with them. So let's grab a couple quick final calls. Let's go to Al in Franklin Park. Hey, good morning, Al. Welcome to the show.
Good morning. Hi. Good show. You made a point though about what are we taking away from the year and from the Biden and Kamala administration. And I guess one of my big ones is the joy that was in the administration and the joy that was in the accomplishments of it and the good that was being done. And you've mentioned many of those things already. And I just want to say that, we have, as your last clip said, we got to not have despair, and we have to keep that joy to move on into the new year and use that as part of the fight. We can't let them take away our joy, and that's one of my biggest things I wanted to state here.
Hey, I gotta commend you, Al. I actually didn't say joy, and I gotta give you your props on that. I spoke about the literal accomplishments, but one of the ones that we did get to experience collectively was the joy that came from the administration, particularly, frankly, once Vice President Harris became the nominee. So thank you for reminding us of that, Al. I appreciate that very much. And Happy New Year to you, my man. I appreciate all your contribution to the show over the year. You've been stalwart in that regard, and that means a lot to me.
Thank you. Yeah, and what else? Well, all kinds of stuff. I guess I forgot my thoughts, so I'll get it another time.
That's all right. That's all right.
All right.
Thanks, Al. Be well.
Yeah. Bye-bye.
Bye now. All right, let's go to Ron somewhere in the universe. Hey, Ron, welcome to the show. Uh-oh. Did we lose?
This is Ron.
Hey, Ron.
Indiana.
Hey, Ron, are you there? Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
All right. Happy New Year. This is Ron from Hammond, Indiana.
We're all right. All right. We got you now. What's going on?
Yeah. No, I just called to wish you a Happy New Year and to tell you thank you for everything you do. We need people like you. And thanks for playing that last clip of the woman.
Yeah.
And what she said. The one ray of hope I see is that I agree with everything she said, but we did have what Kamala got, 49.5%.
Yep.
Of the vote, so they don't have everybody.
Nope.
And as long as we keep thinking positive, and seeing that there's hope out there, we can do it.
Yeah.
And I look forward to a good year for the Democrats. We have a deep bench, and I think we're can accomplish a lot.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I do. Sheldon Whitehouse said something that I'll share with you since you put it in that vein. He basically says it's calling for a war machine to spar against the GOP as the DNC is looking for its new chair. And I'll put that in my vernacular. We need to take kind of what you just said, and that's to make sure we're staying positive and we're assembling and we're ready to fight back, because the joy, you're right, 49.5% or darn near 50%, in terms of the popular vote, says that the country is, with its faults and with its issues, is aspirational and trying to move forward. And so I'm with you in that regard, Ron, and I think that we have to put our war machine, political war machine, back together and assemble and go forward. So thank you for those words, and thank you for being a listener to this show. We appreciate that.
All right, and thank you again.
All right, Ron. Be well. Happy New Year to you.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
All right. Bye now. Yeah, I mean, listen, the clip that we played, it's one of those clips that, sometimes you get it's like a favorite song or a song you enjoy. It's one of those ones that, you play over and over again because it does something to you. And it inspires you to move forward. So in this time where we are faced with that, as we wrap up this year, and I want to say end this year, we wrap up this year. My goal for you guys, or my hope for you guys, is that you will take those things, those kinds of reminders from people who are staying faithful to what we're doing and have a plan like she does, and say, okay, bring it on. I'm ready for the fight. And that's the thing that I, when I think about this show and I think about you guys, my goal, my objective is to remind you in different ways. Sometimes they may be a little sledgehammer-esque, and sometimes they might be a little bit nicer. But the opportunity to be able to be here and be a voice and to represent the things that I think that progressive liberal Democrats are responsible for and should be leaning into is, part of the thing that inspires me. So that's why I wanted to bring you guys that, and thank you for being with me and with WCPT at large, and the shows that we have here. So as we go forward with that, thank you. The thing that I'll ask that you guys do is to pass on what we're doing to someone out there that needs support, that needs help, that needs a bright light. That's one of the things that you guys can do to help make this transition in this next direction on any level, local, regional, national, international, as I always say, a little bit easier for somebody. I can promise you that there's somebody out there that may not be listening to this show or may not have streamed anything on our station or any of our broadcasts just yet. But if you share it with somebody, golly, what can that do to help strengthen our platform? Not just the CPT platform, but that in the broader sense of progressive liberal democratic ideas. In the last couple of days, this is literally one of those things that shocked me, surprised me. But I had a friend of mine say that he had a person that he encountered that he does business with that said that he was talking about this radio show that he listens to. Turns out it's this show. How would I, right? I ran into a guy this morning on the way here when I stopped to get my my morning iced coffee. He came up to me and said good morning because he thanked me for holding the door for a couple of police officers. And he came up to me and he said, it was really cool. Appreciate you doing that, blah, 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 And I told him, I gave him one of my WCPT cards and talked about the show. And he's like, oh, yeah, you're just up the street. So you never know, guys. You just never know. So it's less about promoting an individual that's on our station and more about promoting what we do and what our work is all designed to or the outcome that we're trying to derive. That's to inspire more people to be in the mix, to get more people involved and arms locked in. And as we do that, it broadens our message, because I think one of the challenges that we have had is our message needs to be bigger. I've had so many people that have said, we need to hear more of what you're saying. Not just me, but the message in general needs to be out there. There's so many voices that, Stephanie Miller talks about this often in terms of, we have to have our message out there in a broader sense. And I fully agree with that. And I fully support a stronger progressive conversation. And I fully support that we have to be the ones to do it. And so it starts with us. It starts with our willingness to say, I'm going to, as our clip that we played says, I'm going to anchor myself in reality. And I'm going to make sure that I know what I'm dealing with. I'm aware now, if I never was before, or maybe I kind of thought that's not who we are, but we actually are. I'm going to anchor myself in that reality. And as she says, derive power to be able to stand up in this fight and like, Ron said and Al said, that I'm going to do it with joy. And that joyful warrior that is our vice president that led us, almost across the finish line is part of the joy that you want to take and carry forward. And as part of my final comments, and I said that there were a number of things, and I read a list of the accomplishments of the Biden-Harris team, not just in 2024, but in terms of their 4 years in office. My wrap up for this year, and my thank you is to you guys for being with us, as I said before, and thank you for letting me get a little misty there for a moment. But what we have to take from what took place this year is something that President Biden said the morning after the debate that he had with 34 times convicted felon in late June. And that was, he had a bad night, and we're all going to have a bad night, a bad day. We're not going to always be as awake as Henry was when he came in this morning after his late night flight. But the thing that President Biden said when he spoke to that crowd the next morning, I think it was in Charlotte, if I'm correct here, is that when you get knocked down, you get back up and you fight. And he clenched his fist and made it clear. When you get knocked down, you get back up and you fight. And that's what we have to do, guys. That's what I took from this year. Of all the great things, the convention, the joy, the people that I got to meet, the interviews that I've been able to do and been blessed to be able to be a part of, the thing that we have to take with us as we go forward into this next year is that when you get knocked down, you get back up and you fight. And I leave you guys with that and wish you a happy new year. Be safe. And as we always say, take a deep breath and make your life count.